Good morning, School of Light. It's Sunday, March 11th or 12th, and we're in First Chronicles chapter 27. Quick reminder: School of Light is a correspondence through the mail Bible study courses, multiple languages, very doctrinally sound, free of charge. The way it works is you request it, we send it to you in the mail with a prepaid envelope for return. Once you finish, you return it. Our lady that grades it receives it, records it, and sends you out the next in its series. So very simple, very powerful. Get into God's word. This is one way we can help you to do that. Chapter 27, School of Light Read Through the Bible video series. This is the list of the Israelites, head of families, commanders of thousands, and commanders of hundreds, and their officers who served the king and all that concerned the army divisions that were on duty month by month throughout the year. Each division consisted of 24,000 men. In charge of the first division was the first month was Jashobim, son of Zabdiel. There were 24,000 men in his division. He was a descendant of Perez and chief of all army officers for the first month. In charge of the division for the second month of Dodai, the Achai, Mikloth, was the leader of his division. There were 24,000 men in his division. The third army commander for the third month was Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, the priest. He was chief, and there were 24,000 men in his division. That was Benaiah, who was a mighty man among the 30 and was over the 30. His son Amizabad was in charge of his divisions. Division. For the fourth month was Asahel, the brother of Joab. His son Zabadiah was his successor. There were 24,000 men in his division. For the fifth month was the commander Shemuth, the Israelite. There were 24,000 men in his division. For the sixth month was Ira, the son of Ikish, the Tekoite. There were 24,000 men in his division. For the seventh month was Helez, the Pelonite, and Ephraimite. There were 24,000 men in his division. For the eighth month was Sibbachai, the Hushathite, a Zerahite. There were 24,000 men in his division. For the ninth month was Abiezer, the Anathothite, a Benjamite. There were 24,000 men in his division. For the 10th month was Maharai, the Netophalite, a Zerahite. There were 24,000 men in his division. For the 11th month was Benaiah, the Parathonite, and Ephraimite. There were 24,000 men in his division. For the 12th month was Hildai, the Netophathite, from the family of Othniel. There were 24,000 men in his division. The officers over the tribes of Israel, over the Reubenites, Eleazar, son of Zikri; over the Semonites, Shephatiah, son of Micah; over Levi, Hashabiah, son of Kemuel; over Aaron, Zadok; over Judah, Elihu, a brother of David; over Issachar, Omri, son of Michael; over Zebulun, Ishmaiah, son of Obadiah; over Naphtali, Jeremoth, son of Azriel; over the Ephraimites, Hoshea, son of Azaziah; over the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joel, son of Pedaiah; over the half-tribe of Manasseh in Gilead, Edo, son of Zechariah; over Benjamin, Jasiel, son of Abner; over Dan, Azriel, son of Jehoram. These were the officers over the tribes of Israel. David did not take the number of the men 20 years old or less, because the Lord had promised to make Israel as numerous as the stars in the sky. Joab, son of Zeruiah, began to count the men but did not finish. Wrath came on Israel on account of its numbering, and the number was not entered into the book of the annals of the king of David. The king's overseers, Asmaveth, son of Adiel, was in charge of the royal storehouses. Jonathan, son of Uzziah, was in charge of the storehouses in the outlying districts in the towns, the villages, and the watchtowers. Isri, son of Caleb, was in charge of the field workers who farmed land. Shimei, the Ramathite, was in charge of the vineyards. Zabdi, the Shipmite, was in charge of the produce of the vineyards for the wine vats. Baal Hanan, the Jeriite, was in charge of the olive and sycamore fig trees in the western foothills. Joash was in charge of the supplies of olive oil. Shitrai, the Sharonite, was in charge of the herds grazing in Sharon. Shaphat, son of Aldai, was in charge of the herds in the valleys. Obil, the Ishmaelite, was in charge of the camels. Jehdiah, the Maranathite, was in charge of the donkeys. Jaziz, the Hagrite, was in charge of the flocks. All these were officials in charge of King David's property. Jonathan, David's uncle, was a counselor, a man of insight, and a scribe. Jehiel, son of Hakmoni, took care of the king's sons. Ahithophel was the king's counselor. Hushai, the Archite, was the king's friend. Ahithophel was succeeded by Jehoiada, son of Benaiah, and by Abiathar. Joab was the commander of the royal army. Wow, that's a lot of words, that a lot of names that I haven't really practiced. So what do we see here? What do we see? Well, we see that they had some formation. They had order for each month for the army divisions to stand guard. And I suppose it just gives a lot of little details, like this guy here. Baal Hanan, the Gederite, was in charge of the olive and sycamore fig trees in the western foothills. Joash was in charge of supplies. So everybody had their own thing that they were tasked to do. Let's see. That's really it. I mean, we had the Ahithophel, a king's counselor. Hushai, the Archite, was the king's friend. Archite, that's a different type of people. I really like to, curious to find out who the Archites are. And then back to Joab, commander of the royal army. So the takeaway is each had their own task assigned. They were good at what they were doing. There was order and coordination and some interesting insights, just everything from this right here, because the Lord had promised to make Israel so numerous in the skies, David did not take the number of the men 20 years old or less, because they would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. So there's some insights, some interesting continuations of other themes before and after, but not any particular new subject that I see. Possibly. It's my first time reading it. I haven't really meditated, thought, prayed, or anything over it. But it seems like a continuation of the themes, a little bit of insight, a little bit of detail, a little bit of new happenings as far as 24,000 being the monthly. They were rotating out between the 12 months and the 12 tribes. probably a lot to absorb, but this is a brief overview. So, God bless. If you need Bible studies, just let me know. God bless. Bye.